Hey guys, we're live. Alrighty, we're live. We're gonna talk about the game that was yesterday, and we're gonna have a little fun. If you guys can see the new logo's official on the T-shirt. I don't know if you guys can see it too well, but the logo's there. Might be, I told you guys that there might be some changes coming. That's still in the works, but I can't reveal to you guys yet what the changes are so far. So if you're online right now, hit the like button. Hit the subscribe button if you haven't already done so. Share this podcast with anybody you want to. I don't care who. Let's just get some more viewers. Let's get some more subscribers. All right. All right. Now we're going to go with the game that was. The game that we all felt good about. The game that I never felt once the game started that we were ever going to lose it. And I'll tell you why. Yes, we threw 3 straight passes to open the game, and we punted. Or was it maybe it was a run in between 2 passes. But anyhow, Jason will or will not be on. He has a personal issue going on, and he will try to make it on. Originally, we went at 7 o'clock tonight because that's the time he said he could get on. But at this point, he'll get on when he gets on, right? Yeah, I forgot to tell everybody about that. We're hoping that Jason gets on because Jason has some good things to talk about, and we want him on here to talk about them. All right. So where was I at? Okay. So okay, yeah. So I wasn't too comfortable about the way we started the game, and then I watched Washington take the ball and march down the field. And I just kept saying, hey, we're going to hold them to a field goal. We're going to hold them to a field goal. And then when they got ready to go for it, I go, they're going to miss. They're going to miss. I just know they're going to miss. Boom! Right off the crossbar. Misses the thing.
It was blocked.
Block, yeah, that's what I meant. I meant block, yeah. Misses the field goal. And I told my buddy who I was watching it at his house with, and I'm getting excited, right? I'm jumping up and down, and yeah. He goes, man, you're getting really into this game. I go, yeah. And then our next drive, we marched the ball right down the field for a touchdown. And I don't think we threw a pass in that whole drive. I can't remember. Somebody can correct me if we did, but he only threw 14 passes the entire game. So I'm going to go with he didn't throw a pass that whole drive. We just used KJ and pounded the ball down the field.
I think we did hit a short one to Lachey on that possession.
Okay, yeah, right. By the way, we need to talk to some podcasters out there. A lot of people said Lachey didn't have a target yesterday. He had 2 targets and 1 catch, I believe. But yeah, I just felt good. I just felt good about the way we were moving the ball. And you guys know that I was trying to get KJ to 200. If we'd have left him in the 4th quarter, he'd have got his 200. But what the heck? Why not? The game's in hand. Go rest him, get him ready for Michigan State. And I forgot to look to see how many yards he needs to go this week to get to 200. I mean, to get over 1,000, but it's probably only about 20.
You know, when I felt like I was pretty sure Iowa was going to win that game.
Mm-hmm.
When they tried the flea flicker on their second play on offense, when Washington tried that, and I said to myself at the time, they don't believe they're going to have a great day on offense unless they hit plays like that.
Mm-hmm.
They came out and said, hey, we're going to kitchen sink this thing and just see, if we can get them off tilt.
Mm-hmm.
And, it was kind of funny because I think that was the play where Brock Heward on TV was wanting pass interference. And someone that I was chatting with at the time, I messaged him. I'm like, you don't get a pass interference on a woefully underthrown ball. Like, you don't get rewarded for woefully underthrowing the football.
Right.
And that's what happened.
Okay. All righty. So, all right. And then I don't remember what Washington did on their next series. Did we intercept it or recover a fumble?
After the blocked field goal?
Yeah.
I think
after the blocked field goal, we took down and went and scored a touchdown.
Right. We went and scored 7-0. I believe they came back and they got a score of their own, but
it was 7-7. It was
7-7.
Yeah, that's it. That's right. Yeah.
And
I didn't go on. One of the things was I intentionally stayed off the internet because I knew that people after that first drive were going to go ballistic. And, sure enough, I'm reading some things today, catching up on my reading. And sure enough, you can tell when people were going ballistic early in their posts after that first drive. And it's just like, I'm learning. This is Iowa football.
Uh-oh. We do not own the rights to that music. Okay. I'll take over for a little bit. So yeah, I mean, as far as the game itself goes, if we could impress upon people to understand Phil Parker and the way we play defense, almost every team we play, their best drive is their first drive. And a lot of that is, Phil Parker feeling out what the other team is doing. And I'm not sure there's actually a better coordinator in the country at adjustments from that second possession on than Phil Parker. And so, and what's interesting about that is all of the different things Washington tried to do with their first possession. And, we still kind of figured out a little bit of what they were going to try to do against us, and we countered.
Okay. I want to look something up real quick. I mean, keep talking, Paul. I got to look something up real quick.
And I do think right now, I mean, the thing that Iowa is missing most on defense is a legit feared pass rusher. And that is the difference right now between our defense being really, really good, one of the top 10, 15 defenses in the country overall, and being that elite top 2, 3 defenses in the country. I mean, we kind of have that pass rush by committee. We have guys that get pressure. We did do a good job of coverage sacks and getting them off balance and off, getting the timing off, things like that yesterday. But I mean, if we had an AJ Epinesa that, teams literally had to game plan for on the edge, it would take this defense from really good to elite. I really believe that.
Okay.
This year's defense is not as good as last year's defense, but it's not a huge drop off. Again, we held a good Washington offense to 16 points. Ohio State's going to score. They're going to score points on anybody they play.
Mm-hmm.
So and I know you can't say, just take out the Ohio State game. But if you do take out the Ohio State game, the numbers are very much in line with a really, really good defense.
Yeah. Well, Jared, we only gave up 16 points, so we gave up 393 yards of offense to them. We usually hold teams to around 300 or less. So honestly, considering who we played and how offensive they are, I don't think that was a bad game for our defense.
Yeah. And coming into the game, one of the interesting things, and I think Coach had brought this up on the preview podcast, was because he said, Coach did, Washington was going to be able to move the football, but they were going to struggle to score. And they were and continue to be one of the worst teams in the red zone.
Mm-hmm.
Washington was coming in, and Iowa was also like the worst red zone defense in the country. From a percentage, like I think teams were like 8 of 8 in the red zone against Iowa, but before yesterday. However, as I said, that was through 5 games. So if you've only given up 8 red zone trips in 5 games, that's pretty darn good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Not too bad. Not too bad. Calvin says we scored on 7 straight possessions. I don't remember for sure.
We did.
I do know that it seemed like every time we had the ball, we were scoring. We did only punt twice for 58-yard average. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think he had a 61-yarder and a 55-yarder.
That sounds about right.
Yeah. Yeah, he had a 58 average out of the two, 61 being the long and like 55 being the other. So that's about right. That pretty much splits the difference.
Yeah.
Those were awesome punts for sure.
Absolutely.
This is what I found interesting that Kelvin's bringing up. Washington punted once, but kept going on 4th down. God, wasn't that amazing that we kept stopping them on 4th down?
Yeah.
Then that one led to a touchdown when we didn't stop them on 4th down, but that was with our second stringers in.
Yeah, and you know, that's a twofold kind of thing, right? I mean, like they were going for it on 4th down, and I don't know if part of that was they didn't feel like they could stop the Iowa offense. I mean, like it's just.
Yeah. I don't know. I guess they felt like that as good as their offense was and early in the game, they were having their way with us. Maybe they just felt like they could do it. You know, we stopped them once. Okay. They won't stop us again. Well, we did. I don't know how many 4th downs we stopped them on, but I said this is a change of pace because that reminds me of when in that 2015 Michigan State Big Ten title game, when we couldn't stop them on 4th down. Every time we had them 3rd and long or 4th and long, they found a way to keep the drive alive, which was, you know, at that time there was so much time left on the clock. I'm surprised they didn't punt. You know, they just kept they just burned the rest of the clock. But anyway, it was so nice to have us stop people on 4th down for a change, especially on some of that close yardage situation.
You know, for teams that we don't play regularly.
Mm-hmm.
You know, our athleticism isn't gonna jump off in the in the game film because you know we don't have a bunch of 5-star guys out there. You know, we're not gonna win the beauty pageant as far as what our guys look like getting off the bus, but what makes us hard to prepare for is that it is really tough to simulate how consistent we are on defense, especially, right? Mm-hmm. Like just discipline. Our D-line stays in their run fits, the adjustments that we make, but we are rarely so out of position that guys get behind the defense. It's happened a couple times this year, more than we're used to seeing. Mm-hmm. But as far as just that, when you're preparing for Iowa, until you actually go against these guys who we have so many guys that have been in the system now for long enough too, that it's just, we don't make a ton of mistakes on that side of the football.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So one of the things too that I'm just so proud of the team is the resilience to come back after getting pounded by Ohio State and just putting our own beat down on it. It's just like that game was so fun to watch.
Yeah.
Watching us score, watching KJ run, and I honestly thought the other two rushers that were rushing, Moultron and Jazz,
Yeah.
I thought they actually were getting more yardage than what they ended up with. Actually, when I went through the thing, I don't think Jazz actually had a carry.
No, Jazz Patterson did have a carry. He had a carry or two.
He had a carry, okay.
Especially there in the fourth quarter. I think he was the back on like the final drive or two.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, they had a number 6 and playing defensive back, and now I already forgot his name. I had to look up who he was because I'm like, who is this number 6? I didn't know. And
did you find out who it was?
Yeah, but the name is escaping me now.
Hank, who is it? You're the one that caught it and put it up here. Who'd they put out there? I didn't catch it.
Is number 6.
I didn't even catch it when what's his name went out off the line. I didn't catch it until the TV told us. Lutmer, yeah, he's right. Yeah, that's I knew that. Okay, so Casey's glad. Okay, that Oregon beat OSU. Okay, Paul is correct. Jazz was in late in the fourth quarter. Yeah. Okay. So, what do you think about Oregon beat Ohio State on the last? Was that overtime field goal or in regulation? I don't remember.
No, it was Ohio State had the ball last in the fourth quarter. They were trying to get into position to score a field goal.
Yep, that's what it was. Stupid.
Well,
Running that play like he did.
There's a lot of people
out with 5 or 6 seconds on the clock. And I go, Joe, you got to get down.
Well, and Oregon had 12 men on the field, and a lot of people and they lost time on that. A lot of people are saying, well, if Oregon had 12 men on the field, they should have, reset the clock or whatever. I don't know, but.
So how would you guys grade the Pac-12's team performance in the Big Ten so far? This is what I'm going to go with. A stat that I didn't realize is the teams are like 2-10 right now. On the teams traveling more than 2 time zones are losing these games, which makes me think that we're going to be traveling 2 time zones in a couple of weeks to play UCLA. So does that mean UCLA gets the best of us? Although Minnesota went to UCLA last night and won.
Yeah, it can be done.
It can be done. Minnesota showed that it can be done. So it was 1-8 before yesterday, and I think I did my math today. It's now 2-10. So the teams seem to be struggling going more than 2 time zone. Ohio State now.
I think it's just I don't think it's a matter of the travel, because Penn State also won. They traveled 2+ time zones and won at USC. So there's at least three of those wins now. Yeah. I don't think it has so much to do with the traveling and the times and things like that, as much as it does. They're not great teams, right? I mean, UCLA is not very good. They're okay. I don't want to disparage them, but I mean, I don't think they're very good.
UCLA?
UCLA.
Yeah. I think they're the worst team in the Pac-10 right now. Big 12. They're not Pac-10 anymore.
USC, I mean, it's tough to win in the big house, right? So that's, they lost there. Oregon, obviously, they're so far so good for them. They just knocked off Ohio State, right? So it's just, and then Washington. Washington's a bowl team. I mean, I'd have to see their remaining schedule, but they've got a couple more wins in them.
Yeah, they're going to Indiana. I think after this, I don't think they go to Indiana this week, but next week they go to Indiana. I think they're on a bye week this week, so they get a bye week before they have to travel 3 time zones
Yeah.
to win a game.
But I think these the new teams from the Pac-12 are what they are getting a lesson in, and we're gonna see what happens with Oregon next, right? But there is and always has been kind of a gauntlet to Big Ten play, and there's something to be said for a team like Washington. They played Michigan last week, and then they turn around and have to go to Kinnick Stadium and play, right? And then and if you've got Michigan and Penn State and Ohio State on, whether they're home and away, but you have them on your schedule, and then you're going to mix in, a trip to Kinnick, a trip to Madison, Nebraska at home. This year, Illinois and Indiana are good football teams, right?
Okay. So moving on. I thought this was kind of funny. Hink says, if we lose to UCLA, that will be a fireable. And then his next line was fireable offense. I thought that was kind of funny. That Oregon is elite. Okay. It's a gauntlet for Washington. I do believe the announcers did say it's not going to be easy for them. Here we go. Washington was in Iowa City on Thursday. I do know their equipment truck was, because somebody sent me a picture of the equipment truck at the stadium.
Well, I think they said on TV that Jed Fish was kind of aware of the 2-8 record of these teams traveling, and so they came in early and tried to. Did their walkthrough at like 9 a.m. and tried to do some things to get acclimated.
I see. Okay. Yeah. Yeah, he got it wrong here. He did correct himself. Excuse me, Oregon, not Ohio State. Okay. Oh, yeah. They got to play Penn State. Washington's going to have a few losses, I think. Okay. Hink says the plane came in on Saturday. No, he's saying he's changing his mind now. He's saying Friday.
Well, I mean, here we are. We're at the midway point, right? We're 6 games in. And, I mean.
Let's talk about our remaining schedule.
Yeah.
Okay. Michigan State is not supposed to be a great team, so we should be able to go there and pull off a win, correct?
That game opened, Iowa's a 6.5-point road favorite.
So that's saying a lot right there.
That to me, that's a big number. I'd probably take Sparty in the points. I mean, that's not an easy place to win, especially at night.
Yeah. Okay, and then I believe we got Northwestern after that, correct? At home for homecoming.
That sounds right.
By the way, guys, I'm going to tell you right up front, I've been invited onto another person's podcast on the Northwestern Week. For whatever reason, they've invited me to be a guest on their show called Hawkeyes. It'll be live on Wednesday at 8 p.m. Central.
Yeah. By the way, I watched Northwestern. They are not afraid to throw the football down the field. So that's something for us to keep an eye on.
Well, one thing I noticed, they are 3-3. Yeah. You know what? He's got them guys playing again. Every time somebody writes this team off, this coach turns around and gets his team playing. So Northwestern's not looking like a gimme like we once thought it might be.
They've been a little Jekyll and Hyde, though, right? I mean, like 1 week they'll look pretty good, and another week it's just like, ooh, they're
they're looking pretty good, They just took down Rutgers and did a pretty good job of it.
Well,
And Rutgers
Wisconsin
was supposed to be one of the teams in the league this year to watch out for.
No, didn't Northwestern beat Maryland? I thought because
Was it Maryland? Why did I
Wisconsin
think it
took
was
out
Rutgers? Well,
Rutgers.
who took down Rutgers? Somebody took down Rutgers.
Wisconsin.
Oh, Wisconsin did. Okay. Yeah. And now what do you think about Wisconsin? Because we follow that at home. We follow the Northwestern game with Wisconsin at home.
Yeah, I mean,
is that looking like a team? Yeah. I don't know, because they look like they're on the move. They've kind of blown teams out the last couple of weeks. I can't remember who, but Rutgers obviously was one of them.
We're going to see a little bit, that November fall, fall weather is going to start setting in, and we're going to find out a little more about Wisconsin because, I'm still not convinced that style of play is going to work in our conference late in the year when you've got to be able to line up and, punch a guy in the mouth.
Yeah. Every week is a battle, boys. Penn State and Illinois both got away with overtime wins this week. Yeah. I watched one, but not the other. I was staying at a hotel that didn't have many stations, and they only offered one ESPN station. And if it hadn't been for games being on NBC, CBS, and Fox yesterday, I wouldn't have got to watch any games from the hotel.
I want to say there was like 7 major games that went into overtime yesterday. Mm-hmm. Penn State, USC was one. Tennessee, Florida went to overtime. I don't know if Alabama, South Carolina did, but that game came right down to the end. With the Penn, Illinois went to overtime. I forget what the others were, but
okay, yeah. So he says Purdue. So pump the brakes, boys. Is Purdue who Wisconsin blew out last week? Is that what you're saying?
Well, they blew out Rutgers yesterday.
Yeah, Rutgers yesterday, but they blew out somebody last week.
It might have been. I think it was Purdue, and yeah, I mean there.
Yeah, so maybe he's saying don't get too hyped up on Wisconsin just yet. Okay, will Caleb Johnson get a 2,000 rush yard season? Maybe. I wanted him to be on pace for 2,000, but we took that off of there. And by the way, Kelvin, you were correct. I looked it up. You were correct on the yardage that he needed to get to 1,000 yards. So that's not even a guarantee. He probably will get it, but I thought he just needed 20 or so. So I miscalculated.
Yeah, as far as Caleb getting a 2,000, it wouldn't have hurt if he wasn't suspended for the first half of the Illinois State game.
Well, he'd be about 100 yards ahead right now,
or more.
Yeah. And just think if last week if he could have mustered up a few more yards,
right?
Than 82. That's the only game he didn't get 100 in this year, but he has scored a touchdown in every game this year. And I believe now, if I do my math right, he has 12 or 13 on the season.
I think he has. I know he got to 12. I don't remember if he got 13 or, because we threw the pass to the freshman, Dayton. Mm-hmm. He got one of those.
Yeah. He caught one and ran for 2 yesterday. He got 3.
Okay, yeah.
So I'm not sure where he was at going in the game. If he had 10 entering the game or 9. Okay. Purdue has Oregon Friday night line is 30. Yeah, I didn't even put that on our picks for this coming week because that game is a no-brainer. His personal goal was 1,200 yards and 12 touchdowns. Well, he's past the 12 touchdown part, or he's right there now. And his personal goal of 1,200, he's gonna blow that out unless he gets injured, right?
Mm.
Okay.
I was chatting with my father-in-law earlier. I know, cool story, bro, right? But he asked, we were talking about Iowa's chances of making the 12-team playoff. And I relayed my concern to him was, as it stands right now, and it's not looking real good, there are no signature victories left on Iowa's schedule, right? There
are no what?
There are no signature victories left on, unless Wisconsin were to continue.
There might be. Nebraska and Wisconsin could turn out to be signature victories.
If you look at Nebraska's upcoming schedule, once again, they may be playing for bowl eligibility on Black Friday.
Gosh, I already had them at 7 wins by the time they get to Iowa.
Not going to happen.
I know Indiana was one of the ones that I was going to give them a win for, but now I don't know. It just shows you that with the transfer portal and the NIL stuff going on, it's getting harder and harder to predict how the season's going to go because you don't know how the new pieces are going to fit with the new team.
And this is, I mean, you look at Nebraska's upcoming schedule, and they're like at Indiana, at Ohio State, and then they at Iowa, obviously. I think they get Northwestern at home, and maybe like Wisconsin at home, and maybe it's not Wisconsin, but they have 3 wins right now. I don't know that they have 3 wins left on their schedule. And if they do, it's just 3.
You're saying Nebraska has just 3 wins?
Correct. They're 3-2.
3-2. Who are their losses to?
Was it Rutgers that beat them? And Illinois?
Okay, yeah, I think Illinois did beat them. You're correct on that. Okay, all right. Yeah,
I'm going to pull it up because I think I might even still have it here, like from where I was looking it up earlier. Yeah, so their remaining games are at Indiana, at Ohio State. They get UCLA at home. They're at USC.
He beat you to it.
Was
the schedule? He's got it already written down while you were talking.
So
that's a tough schedule. I think they lose to Indiana because it's on the road. They'll lose to Ohio State. They might get UCLA. I don't know if it's on the road or at home.
UCLA is at home.
They might get a win against USC because they're proving that their defense hasn't come around yet. They can score, but what's about their defense? Wisconsin and Iowa, that could be 2 losses right there. So you're absolutely right, Paul. They got to get 3 more wins to be bowl eligible.
Yeah,
I don't see 3 wins there.
I take it back. They beat Rutgers 14-7. I was wrong on that.
Okay.
So they might. I think they actually have 4 wins. They beat UTEP. They beat Colorado. They beat Northern Iowa. Then they lost to Illinois. They beat Purdue, and then they squeaked by Rutgers. So
they lost to Illinois. Did you put that down there?
Yeah, they're only So I mean, right now they are 1, 2, 3.
Should be 4-1.
4-1. They're 5-1.
Okay, so they're 1 game from bowl eligibility. They'll get it in the UCLA game.
They might. Yeah,
I think they will. I mean, you know what? UCLA can't stop anybody.
Yeah, and it's at home.
I
But
mean, even Minnesota managed to score some points on them, and Minnesota's having trouble scoring points this year offensively.
I mean, I think, I mean, they're going to lose their next 2 games at Indiana, at Ohio State. I don't know what.
I would give you that. I will give you that.
And I don't know where they're going to be mentally by the time they get to UCLA.
Right. Well, after Indiana and Ohio State, and then they get USC and Wisconsin later, maybe their quarterback won't be left healthy enough to play.
Right?
Maybe we'll get lucky, because those kind of quarterbacks scare me, because he does exactly what the quarterback I was afraid of Washington would do to us, but Iowa found a way to slow him down. They didn't stop him, but they slowed him down. And I like that. And he didn't get more than 20 yards on any one pass. And so that was his longest pass of the day. And so that's pretty good. And then that backup quarterback, he didn't really impress me that much, but he's a freshman.
Yeah.
But he actually.
By the way,
I don't know.
Wisconsin's remaining schedule, in case you wanted to know, they are at Northwestern. They get Penn State at home.
Mm-hmm.
They're at Iowa, Oregon at home, at Nebraska, Minnesota at home. Okay. I don't know that there's a lot of winnable games left on Wisconsin's schedule.
Doesn't seem like it, because the Wisconsin-Minnesota game, that rivalry, is what's the Paul Bunyan Axe they play for, or something like that?
Yeah, they play for Paul Bunyan.
So that's going to be tough. It's going to be like the Iowa State game. Just throw the records out the book. The only time, Wisconsin has dominated that series, because Wisconsin for a long time hasn't been very good. But Wisconsin's been very competitive the last few years, even though the record doesn't always show it. Okay. So that could go. And then who else did you say that they have? Wisconsin? Oregon, they're going to lose that.
Yeah. I mean, what a 3-game stretch here for Wisconsin. Penn State at home, at Iowa, Oregon at home.
So they play Penn State this week then?
No, Northwestern. They're at
Northwestern, and then Penn State, and then we're 3 weeks away.
Yeah.
Oh, it's okay. Yeah.
So they have a pretty tough end of the year schedule.
Okay. Jared says, I'd like to see our last game of the season rivalry week be ISU or Minnesota. More meaningful to me as a fan. So Jared doesn't like the fact that our new end of the year rival has been Nebraska the last several years. He'd rather see it be Minnesota or Iowa State. I'm a fan of keeping the Iowa State game at the beginning of the year, like we're doing. I'd rather it be game 3 and not game 2. I'd like to have one more game under our belt before we played it, but I just think we lose focus if we play Iowa State at the end of the year. And the only time we played Iowa State at the end of the year, they beat us.
Yeah, I kind of miss the days when we played Minnesota at the end of the year. That's how we had the trying to get the goalposts out of the hump dump and stuff.
Oh my God, that was so much fun watching that.
We don't get that anymore.
Yeah, I know it. We don't have the dome to hide in anymore. Kennick North.
Hank wants to know.
Okay, Hank wants to know about what about Penn State. So what do you look at their remaining schedule at?
So looks like they are at Wisconsin, host Ohio State, get Washington at home. Boy, that's a travel for the Huskies. Mm-hmm. At Purdue, at Minnesota, Maryland at home to close it out.
Okay, so Penn State, Minnesota's playing very competitive, so they might have a shot at Penn State. And Washington, they got to play them at home after they travel 3 time zones, so I'll give that one to Penn State. So is there what's left on their schedule that they could lose?
Ohio State at home.
Okay. Yeah, they'll probably lose that.
That's really it. At Wisconsin in 2 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
Outside of that, I mean, Ohio State at home, and then they'll get Washington at home, at Purdue, at Minnesota, Maryland at home to finish it out.
Kelvin's remembering the game that Danon Hughes must have made a snow angel. That
That's
obviously
right.
wasn't inside the Minnesota Dome. Okay, we could play Iowa State in a bowl game that would count for the end of the year. I would believe that Iowa State's going to be in the playoffs as of now. So I don't think we're going to play them. I believe right now they're playoff eligible. They're ninth. They're ranked ninth right now. They're probably the only undefeated team in the Big 12 right now.
Well, I think BYU's undefeated, aren't they?
Are they still I think they have one loss.
Okay.
I have to go and look at that up. I mean, I'm not following the Big 12 as closely as I should, but because, what Iowa State does kind of affects where Iowa ends up this year. I kind of like to keep an eye on them a little bit. So very favorable for Penn State.
Yeah.
They could be in the title game. Penn State, they might be.
Yeah.
They might be. Okay.
What's going to hurt Iowa State is their strength of schedule is not good. Like I said, we talked earlier. Right now, I mean, their best win is against an unranked Iowa team. That is the feather in their cap, and they aren't going to play and probably until the Big 12 title game, where they're going to play Kansas State or a BYU. I mean,
they don't play BYU unless it's in the title game,
right? And I don't know if they play K-State or not.
They finished the season with Kansas State, and the week before that, Utah. So those will be two tough games for them.
Yeah.
But I think my brother-in-law and I went through Iowa State's schedule, and I think until those last two games, I think they have a favorable schedule. He does not. He thinks that they could easily not win the rest of their games. He thinks they could end up losing every one of the rest of their games.
Iowa State?
Yes. And he's an Iowa State graduate, an Iowa State fan. He also is the same one that told me that Iowa would have a hard time getting to 6 wins this year. Yeah. I think they've got 6 wins on that schedule. And he also said that we wouldn't beat Washington.
All right. Let's see who they have left here and when. So this week they get UCF.
He said the Big 12 is like the Big 12 is like the Big 10 West. They suck.
I mean, their remaining games are against unranked Central Florida at home, unranked Texas Tech at home. They're at Kansas, unranked Cincinnati at home, at unranked Utah, but that'll be a tough place to play.
Yeah.
And then Kansas State at home to close it out.
Okay. Any sure wins in your ideal there?
I mean, I feel like they're better than everyone on their schedule. The last 2 games of the year, Utah and K-State are those could be toss-ups because it's at Utah, and then K-State I think is good enough to win in Ames.
Yeah. So Utah's unranked?
They are.
I did not realize it. They just lost another game this weekend, didn't they?
Yeah.
Okay, so I was thinking originally that the Utah-Iowa State game might be a preview of the Big 12 championship game, but
if Iowa State makes it to the Big 12 championship game, and let's say that's against BYU, there's a real good chance they could end up losing their last 3 games. I don't think they get in.
Yeah. Speaking of which, of this way he's talking about their coach. Did you guys Ryan Day, see him complaining about how he called a timeout with 1 second left and they wouldn't give it to him. But did he realize that his quarterback was still running with the ball?
Right.
I watched the clock tick down to 0 before he ever slid. And it's just like, you should have been paying attention, dude.
Got it. Yeah.
I blame that quarterback for him making a stupid decision. And he's supposed to be the face of the Big Ten. Okay, wait a minute. Let's see what we got here.
Jared wants to know who our top 5 teams in the country are right now.
Texas 1.
Agreed.
Oregon 2.
Kind of have to put them there right now.
Yeah. Then this is toss up. I will put at the current time I'm going to put Penn State number 3.
All right.
And Ohio State number 4. Or flip flop them. Maybe I would flip flop them. Number 5. Shoot, I don't know. That could be anybody. That could be anybody.
Georgia,
Tennessee, Alabama.
I think Tennessee is still undefeated.
No, Tennessee's been beat.
Oh, okay.
They got a loss. Or Tennessee, though. But that's what I'm saying, that top 5 spot.
That 5th spot.
However, guys, when they go to do the playoffs, I want you guys to understand that the Power 4 teams get the first 4 spots. The 5th spot goes to the best group of 5 team. So, even if we're sitting here picking our top 5 teams, that doesn't mean that those top 5 would be the first 5 in the playoff.
Yeah.
Arizona beat Utah.
Who else would I have?
Big 12 only gets 1 team. I agree, Hank. Only the champion gets in.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would have to agree with you that.
The only way I could
see ACC might get just 1 team too.
If Iowa State did run the table until the Big 12 championship game, and let's say BYU was also undefeated, if the game ended 30-27, something like that, maybe both of them then would get in, as being a top 12. But I think, a 1-loss team going into that championship game that loses would then be a second loss. I don't think they'd get in.
Yeah. Okay. He picked Texas.
Because let me ask you this:
Ohio State, Penn State.
If you've got a 2-loss, I'm just throwing this out there, a 2-loss Tennessee or a 2-loss Georgia and a 2-loss Iowa State. Let's be honest.
Iowa State's not getting in.
They're not getting in over 2-loss Georgia or 2
Tennessee. Yeah. Yeah. I would agree with you that. And if Georgia and Tennessee go through their schedule with only 2 losses, with the schedule they have in that conference, yeah, they deserve to be in.
Yeah.
That's going to be tough. I mean, Texas actually plays Georgia this week.
Yeah. So for Iowa State to get in, they're going to have to run the table. And then
I think they're just going to have to win the Big Ten title game.
Yeah, the Big 12 title game.
I don't think they get in if they're not I don't think that as a runner-up they get in either.
Yeah.
But they are ranked 9th, so that might hold some merit. Okay, Jared probably looks like he probably left us. He goes, "Great show. Have a great night. Go Hawks and wrestling season is upon us." Yes, it is.
That's right.
Yeah, and Jared and I do some wrestling shows together, and hopefully Paul will join us on those wrestling shows this year.
I'll do my best.
I know it. You're a busy man last year, Paul. Once the football season ended, it was hard to get you around.
And, I'm umpiring fall ball and stuff. It's hard. But
yeah, I know it. I do know that. But,
I have 4 games
you being able to do that.
So I have 4 games this week. Monday, Tuesday, and Thursday and Friday, and then so
yeah, we're gonna have to figure out a night to do. We might have to do our
it's gonna have to
no
be Wednesday
podcast
night.
this week.
Wednesday night, baby.
Yeah. Well, let's go over our picks that we did.
Yeah.
Let everybody
Okay.
know how we did. Jason's not here, and I guess he was right. He's not going to be able to join us after all. I was holding
That's
out hope.
unfortunate.
I don't know what his
But we're
wife
thinking
forgot
about
to
you,
tell him.
Coach.
Huh?
So we're thinking about you, Coach.
Yeah, we are. All right. Okay. So we go Texas, Oklahoma. We all picked Texas. So we're all 1-0. Penn State at USC. We all picked Penn State.
Before we go any further, I just want to point out that Oklahoma is about as close to Texas as we are to Ohio State. That game was pretty similar.
Yeah. 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 Well, I was actually surprised that Texas beat Oklahoma as bad as they did. I think Oklahoma glory days must be finally over.
Yeah.
Okay. And then, like I said, we all picked Penn State over USC. I'm the only one that picked Ole Miss to beat LSU. You both picked LSU, so I gained one on you guys right there. Ohio State at Oregon, we all took Ohio State, and we all three lost it. Iowa State at West Virginia, we all three took Iowa State. Northwestern at Maryland, we all took Maryland, and Northwestern won. Wisconsin at Rutgers, I'm the only one. Oh, no, you're the only one that took Wisconsin. Us other two took Rutgers, so
I
guess Jason and I were not convinced that Wisconsin was for real yet, and we thought maybe Rutgers was more real. So that just goes to show you how wrong we can be. Washington at Iowa, we all picked Iowa. You picked 24-13 for the final score. He picked 24-17 for the final score. I picked 31-17, so I came the closest.
Yeah, you were only off by 9 points, and then
Mm-hmm. Okay, Washington State at Fresno State. We all picked Washington State. I think we all kind of thought this was going to be a blowout, but Fresno State actually kept it competitive.
Mm-hmm.
And finally, Minnesota over UCLA. We all picked Minnesota, and Minnesota won, but not by a whole lot, I don't think. And it was a low-scoring game, I believe. Yeah. I have to go back and look. Okay. I have our game set for this next week, but we'll try to get the three of us together later in the week and do a show on that one. If not, I'll ask you guys to send me later this week your picks and those games, and I'll just do a quick solo one and add your picks in there.
We have a few minutes before we sign off here. I'd like to go revisit the Washington game for a moment.
Oh, yeah, we should, because that's the whole point of this.
What was your number one takeaway from the game?
My number one takeaway? Mm-hmm. That our defense is what we always thought it was. It's a bend but don't break defense. But when you watch them set up, they are intentionally giving those yards and those passes to them. But the other takeaway I have is we still have to clean up tackling. I thought our tackling was sloppy. We could have actually held these guys to lesser yards. And how many times we had them down behind the line of scrimmage, and we couldn't get them down, and they got positive yardage. So that was that. I'm not concerned as much with the passing and Cade's passing as everybody else is. I kind of believe that it will be there. I think the passing will be there when we need it. But right now, he only threw it 14 times. And I just don't think there was a big need because we were running the ball so well. There wasn't a big need to risk anything and have him throw the ball. And he did throw one for 33 yards to the rookie, Howard. He does show that he can throw it downfield a little bit. Unless he did it all on his own. Could be that too. What's your takeaway from that game?
Well, so number one, Iowa fans really are freaking awesome, right? Mm-hmm. So a week ago, we don't play our best football in the second half of the Ohio State game. We kind of get blown out. That did not stop Iowa fans from absolutely packing Kinnick Stadium and being a huge factor in the game. How many times did Washington get in the red zone, and then false start and have penalties, shoot themselves in the foot? So number one, the crowd was, the stadium was full. They were engaged and they were a factor in the game. And so kudos to Iowa fans, because it really would have been kind of easy. There's that second loss, blah, blah, how it was. Yeah. Kirk getting 200 wins, right? I think that's that.
Did you see the video of him in the locker room?
I did.
Isn't that kind of great? The way the guys got behind him and cheered for him, and one of the players handed him the ball and gave a little speech.
Yes. So Kirk getting 200. As far as the actual game itself, again, Washington, athlete to athlete, they out-athleted us. Their wide receivers they have better days ahead of them, right?
Like, they do.
The score wasn't. I mean, I think they outgained us.
They did. They outgained us. They had more plays than we did. Time possession was more than us, but we proved that you don't need time of possession to win a game. You don't need that many plays to win a game.
Yeah, but if you took off the score and you were looking at the box score, you would not see 40-16, right? Like, it just
you would think that Iowa lost that game, or it was a really close, tight game.
Right. And so, I mean, turnovers on downs absolutely killed them.
How many teams have 300 yards of offense and still score 40 points? But, it's been pointed out, they went for it on fourth down so many times, plus the turnovers. They gave us a lot of short field stuff. Yeah. Just like we gave Ohio State a lot of short field stuff.
And Weechin gave us some great field position on punt returns and a kick return.
He did an excellent job. Matter of
fact, that factors into it too.
Second in total yardage yesterday on the team.
We got short fields off of the Harris interception, where, I mean, Washington looked like they were going to be going in for a score to keep the thing close, and then Harris gets the interception, gets us back around midfield. I think they may have even gotten a flag. Washington might have, because they picked him up and tackled him or whatever.
Yeah. Speaking of the crowds and the flags on Washington, I think the crowd is responsible for some of those false starts and stuff.
That's what I was talking about. Yeah. Down in the red zone, there was, I think, 2 or 3 times where they had false starts. They were like 5 yards or 5 yards or less to the end zone.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And
Paul, what did you think? What did you think of the field goal that could not be reviewed? What did you think? Did you think when you saw it, did you think it was good or that it was good and fair and that the referee's eyes were in good shape?
I take my cues from the players on the field, right? How did they react to things? Like, for instance,
they acted like it was like they was missed.
The Washington kicker and the holder, they were not celebrating, right? Mm. Like it wasn't clear to them that it was good.
No.
Same thing really with the KJ fumble that they did overturn and say he was actually down, but there wasn't an immediate big time reaction that they had caused a fumble and that kind of thing. So
yeah, I was going nuts because I said they missed again, and I'm going crazy, and my friend is watching me getting fanatical on that. And because I took my cues too from the players and the crowd behind the net.
Right.
Did you see the crowd going crazy?
Right.
And then my buddy who was at the game and he took a picture from that end zone for me to show me where his seats were. He said that from his vantage point in watching it, it was clearly not a field goal. However, I do want to point out something.
30 seconds later, the exact same thing happened for us.
Yeah, the same thing happened to us. And I said at least the referees were consistent.
Right.
Could you imagine the chaos they would have called if they would have called that a bad, not a field goal?
Right.
Oh, the Iowa team everybody would have gone ballistic.
Yeah.
Because that was the exact same scenario that was just previously called a field goal.
And in the end, I mean, it wasn't really, it wasn't a factor in either case, but
no,
especially since we got the 3 points right back.
Mm-hmm. And that was great. Wasn't that great that we were able to go down and get a field goal? Because with 30 seconds left, did you think we were going to take a knee and just run the clock? Or just maybe hand the ball to Caleb, which was what we did. He gets what he gets, and we just run the clock out because we didn't really need any more time seconds out of that, except Caleb breaks a big one and gets us set up in a position where we can actually go for a score.
Yeah. And I won't lie, I think there was 13 seconds and we had used our last timeout. And I was kick now, because we didn't if McNamara were to take a sack or whatever, then we have no way of, stop. I really wasn't happy with how we managed that, but it worked out in the end, barely. But after we got the big run from Caleb, I'm like, do not waste this opportunity to get those 3 points. And
that's what I thought too. And and thanks to Kirk, he allowed them to go ahead and do that. It was like, let's get aggressive, see what we can do. Honestly, I thought that was just one of the best play calling days that Tim Lester has had. And I think it looked to me like Kirk took his thumb off of stuff at this time and let Lester have a little bit of a little bit more say so on what plays they were running. But the other thing too, and I want him to know that we scored 40 points also in the opening victory of the season with him not putting a thumb on Lester. And maybe it's time for him to let Lester do his thing and call plays because, it was obviously all Lester because I didn't see anything in there that reminded me of Kirk. Yeah, and the other thing I wanted to ask about too was, I forgot what I was going to ask about. Sullivan on the play where he falls down, supposedly fumbles the ball, which he actually threw the ball, but fortunately for us, they called it down before he threw the ball. Otherwise, that was going to be
I think they ruled it a fumble or a lateral or whatever. And that allowed them because it was a turnover. It was automatically. I guess all of them are automatically reviewed anyway. All plays are, but they kind of let it play out.
Now, did you see what happened? Why he fell over with the ball and stuff? Did he trip? Was there a bad snap? I mean, did you see what happened?
I think Washington just kind of got to him, and he was just trying to make a play, trying not to take a sack, trying to get rid of the football, and it was a bad decision on his part, but it was also aggressive play. I mean, it looked to me like a guy who, it was a mistake, but it was a mistake while being aggressive. So I wasn't totally upset with it.
No problem. No problem. I just, wanted to rehash some of those things. I had those things written down to talk about, and of course we got sidetracked a little bit, but I always kind of let these guys here that are making comments take the show where it needs to go, and now they're all gone. They've all left us.
And for anyone that decides to listen to this through the end, when with Sullivan or any player coming in cold off the bench, first of all, first of all, right? But first of all, it is tough to score in goal to go situations, right? It's tough for your starter to do it. Now you're asking a guy to come in who he's coming in cold, essentially. You know what I mean? Like he's not in the rhythm of the offense, and he's coming in to run plays. It's hard to throw the football when you're that close, and unless you've got some really good play designs, and you can do some of these rub routes and things like that, and kind of get guys freed up. So I'd love to see us run that pass the touchdown to KJ. I'd love to see us do that further back, getting him out in space the way we did, and then just letting him, but I guess, and I'm sorry, I'm trying to think here at the moment. Does Iowa have a touchdown pass this year that traveled over the goal line? Because I know that was a thing last year. It's like any of our touchdown passes were caught in the field of play and run into the end zone.
I think there was what were the two that Kate had? Did somebody catch him outside the end zone and run in with him?
Yeah, well, the freshman that caught it, he ran it in from 20 or 30 yards out.
Okay.
And then his other touchdown pass was to KJ, who ran it in.
Okay, yeah, you're right. Yeah, so have we thrown it into the end zone and actually caught it? Well, this was his first Power 5 touchdown catch of the year for this quarterback.
Yeah, and it was Cade's
Power 4. Sorry.
It was Cade's first touchdown pass against a Power 5 team, not Iowa, since he did it against Iowa.
Yeah. All right. Well, hey, I think this is a good place to wrap it up. We lost our audience a long time ago.
Yeah.
Somebody snuck back in. Thank you for coming back in. Let me say, though, for you guys that have made it this far, hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, comment. We'll come back later and find your comments, and we'll comment back. At least Jason and I have. Paul hasn't done that yet, but...
But and everybody, hey, we're halfway through. There is a lot of football left. We talked earlier about some of the other teams' upcoming schedules. There's going to be a lot of movement.
There is going to be a lot. I mean, we're half. But can you believe we're halfway through the season already?
It does not feel like we're halfway through the season, but
it
here
doesn't,
we are.
Does it? Yeah. Anyhow. Good place to end it. I think we did a great show tonight, and I hope everybody enjoys it. And we'll play it to the end and share it with their friends. And make sure you hit the like and subscribe button, guys. The like button helps the algorithm, and it helps us get this content pushed out to more people, so that when they hit the search bar for Iowa Hawkeyes, we will be one of the ones that come up. All right, Paul. Thank you for your insight tonight. I appreciate it. And go Hawks.
Go Hawks, everybody.
Yeah.